Then is it clear what we must do? The King of Honor says. Then he takes a short pause before he speaks again. Captain, I want the guards to scour every inch of the city until you find these mages starting now. I don't care if it's almost time. Wake up every single guard that we have. Tell them to look in every nook and cranny, until there is no place left to hide. If our citizens refuse to open the doors to their house, then you can assume they're trying to harbor criminals and you're permitted to kill them on the spot. Nobody's allowed to enter or leave the city until all of my brothers' murderers are found and executed. The city is going into full lockdown, and you, Ambassador, are going to oversee the whole operation together with the captain. Me? The ambassador says in a slightly fearful tone. Yes, Ambassador, the king says. I'm putting you in charge of dealing with these criminals. You will personally be responsible for the results of this manhunt. I don't think I need to tell you what will happen to you if you fail to capture these mages a second time. I'm certain that your desire to right your wrongs will be more than enough motivation for you to do your job properly this time around. Yes, Your Majesty, the ambassador says, of course. Good, the king says, then it's settled. I hope neither of you are hoping to sleep tonight, because I suspect that you are going to be quite busy for some time. Start making the necessary preparations. I want you to come up with a plan of action in less than an hour. Oh, and Captain, would you be so kind to send one of the palace servants to bring Billy Bob? Or Bilbo, whatever, the Lassetti here. Tell them that it is very urgent and that I am requesting his presence in the castle immediately. Surely there must be at least one of his devices that would be helpful for us in such a situation. Yes, my king, the captain says. I will send someone to contact him at once. I will meet you both in my throne room once you are done planning everything, the king says. Do not keep me waiting. We then hear some footsteps getting further away from the recording devices as the king and the royal guard, presumably the captain of the royal guard, are walking out of the room. Once we can no longer hear their steps. Aiden addresses the master in a low voice. Aren't you glad that the guard captain interrupted you earlier? Ambassador says. Aiden says, thanks to him, you didn't have to tell them about our little secret, and you all got to live to see another day. Be sure to make the most of your next few hours, Master. Life is short, you never know what might happen. Yes, Creator, the Master says in a very polite tone. I thank you for your wisdom. We then hear him leaving the room, and a little later, as so does Aiden. As the conversation ends, the king of the underground puts a metal cube back in his pocket. Then he looks at us to see our reaction. Well, the king understands. After a few more seconds, what did you think? I think the quality of the recording was very good. I guess the cat's out of the bag. I swear we were going to tell you about the fact that we killed the king's king. I think the recording quality of the recording was very good. I think so as well, the king of the underground says. Invested a lot of money in these devices. I can say that I'm very happy with them. Now, is there perhaps something else you would like to say to us aside from this? Listen, Darren says, I know the situation looks really bad, but I promise that we can fix it. People are dying up there, healer, the king of the underground says with a grave tone in his voice. The guards are currently still wreaking havoc through the city, knocking down doors, killing anyone that dares to oppose them. We have evacuated the families of all the rebels from the surface already, but there is neither enough space nor air here in the underground to provide shelter for the entire population of the city. Even now, there are people being murdered in their very homes because the king's men are still searching for you. These people would not have died if you hadn't entered the city. The blood is on your hands. I understand, and I'm truly sorry, Darren says. I did not know that would come to this. We thought that we would have more time before the arrival of the master, and we did not fully consider the consequences of our action. But we can still help. Our objective remained the same. If they still align with yours, we could organize ourselves to attack the king of Volunteer together, and then maybe. I don't think you comprehend the situation you're in, healer in armor. The king of underground says, the only reason why you haven't been captured by the royal guard yet is because we are providing you with shelter. Now don't get me wrong, I'm still very grateful for your efforts to find a cure for the sick people in our quarantine area. This is why I've allowed you to sleep here despite what has been happening on the surface. However, I cannot in good conscience sacrifice the lives of the people from above just because there is a small chance for you to cure some of our terminally ill inhabitants. The chance is not small at all, Darren says. Keldrim and I already have a very good lead as to what may be causing the disease. If we get the herbs we need, we may even be able to heal those people as soon as today. And once you're done healing the people from the quarantine zone, what will you do? The king says. Will you surrender yourselves to the royal guard, or do you perhaps have some other plan to end the senseless violence that is still occurring on the surface? We will do what we came here to do, Darren says. We'll kill the king of Volender. Once he is dead, the madness should hopefully come to an end. You speak of killing the king when all of you combined could not even defeat two of his guards, Albert shouts. Or have you already forgotten that we were the ones who risked our lives to save you from Gontok and the Royal Guard captain yesterday? Araka laughs. He's got you there, she tells us. We have improved since then, Hardrick says. Just this morning I practiced this new fighting techniques that will surely, a few more moves is not going to help you when the captain will pin you all down to the ground with his aura, Albert says. Wanna bet? Hardrick says with a grin. You arrogant little, Albert starts to say, but the king interrupts him. Now, Albert, the king of the underground says. We shouldn't be so quick to dismiss their efforts as self-improvement just because their claim seems unrealistic. I think it would be only fair to give them one chance to prove themselves. If they fail our test, then we will put an end to our alliance, and we will kindly ask them to leave our territory. We failed the test. You're kicking us out for good? Darren says. Are you telling me that you won't even let us return to heal the sick people from the quarantine area? If you still want to save those people, and even under such circumstances, that we won't let you from returning one last time to heal them underground, the king says. However, you must understand that even in such a case, we will still ask you to leave as soon as you're done. Fine, Darren says. I can accept that. So I'm guessing that if we pass the test, you will fight together with us against the king of Allender. This is likely what it will come down to, yes, the king of underground says. So what's this test going to be about? Hardrick says. Do you have some really strong fighters that you want us to beat? The king and Albert and Peter exchange a few looks before the king addresses again. Yes, I suppose that would be one way to put it, the king says. But first let me ask you all a question. Have you not found it odd that someone as cautious as me would usually hold these meetings with so few of my men to protect me? I did find it a bit strange now that you mention it, Darren says, and what I'm finding even stranger is that you have even less security now. That in our last two meetings, you used to have two guards by your side, but now you only have Peter and Albert. Why did you avoid bringing your usual two guards if you know that today's discussion might lead to a confrontation? Well, the answer to that question is quite simple, the king says. It's because they would be in our way. All of a sudden, an invisible force from above pushes us into the ground so hard that it breaks the wooden chairs we were sitting into pieces. I try to get up, but due to the ridiculous amount of pressure that is pushing me against the floor, I can barely move a muscle. Eventually manage to turn my head a little, and I realize that all of the others, except Malindra and Layla, are also lying on their backs, just like me, unable to move. How is Layla up? Is she using some what? Why is Layla up? I can understand Malindra because she's super strong, but Layla? Or is he not pushing down Layla because she's one of the, the daughter of one of his, brilliant scientist or whatever? The reason why I said brilliant scientist because it reminded me of Baradok. Baradok is that was a translation error. I'm sure. Whatever. I realized that all the others, As I continue to lie there on the ground, trying to figure out what happened, I hear Araka burst into laughter. Araka says, I was wondering when you'd finally reveal your hidden power on them, but this is just too much. I'm dying of laughter here. What's the matter? The king of the underground asks us, ignoring Araka. The test has already begun. This is the same aura manipulation technique that you were so proudly saying you could fight against as soon as you meet the royal guard captain again. Why don't you show me how much you've really improved? Is the king the one doing this to us? I didn't even know he was a mage, damn it. If only I could move my arm so that I could at least throw my dagger at him or something. You can give up on the test at any time, the king of the underground says after some more time passes. Just admit defeat and I will let you get back up. Untangle, Darren says in a barely audible voice as he is still being pushed against the ground. I beg your pardon? The king of the underground says. Untangle the flow of aura with my mind, Darren says as in a louder voice. He then manages to pull out his sword from his hilts, using it to stab the air above him, then to make a quick slash to the right. As soon as he does this, the invisible pressure that was keeping us pinned down completely vanishes, and we all immediately get up, assuming our battle stances. There we go, Araka says. See, you can do it if you try. Oh, now I understand, the king says as he looks at Darren. You were imagining yourself untying an invisible knot with your aura just now, weren't you? Not bad. Alright, you passed the first stage of the test, Albert. You're free to commence the second phase whenever you're ready. Yes, my king, Albert says, and a few seconds later, he completely vanishes into thin air. What did he do? Hardwick says as he looks around the room trying to figure out where Albert disappeared. Was that an invisibility spell? It's more than just an invisibility spell, the king says. What Albert is using right now is a ability that only the most skilled assassins can learn. He's completely concealing his presence. Not only is he not visible to you, but you also won't be able to hear him, smell him, or even feel his aura. From your point of view, he may as well not be in this room. I have a very good question about that. Like, how does he see then? Because like he needs to have the photons enter his eyeballs to be able to see. How is he seeing? Well, we can always just say magic. So I guess we'll just do that. Magic. All right.